All right, next topic.
We should talk about the Saints getting leveled by Goodell. Goodell said, "Don't you lie to me, boy," and they lied and they got punished.
Yeah, can I just say something about that real quick?
Oh,
I
wait, you
feel
want to say something about it?
no. Well, I really.
Say something about it.
We had a long discussion about this before it happened, where both of us kind of took our good friend Steve Hero, friend of the show, shout out Steve. We took him to task for not thinking that the bounty system was a big deal. Having spent some time looking at what's going on with Goodell and the Saints and the way that this has all gone down, I really feel like the one thing that hasn't gotten talked about enough is that this is not about the bounty system. It's a little bit about liability and player safety, but at the end of the day, if you want to sit there and understand why the fees were so heavy, why the suspensions were so extensive, and why we haven't seen the end of the punishments, it's a question of obedience. It's not a question of player safety. It's not a question of Goodell trying to exert his power, except that they told all the teams to stop doing this, and the Saints told them they weren't doing it, and they lied, and Goodell is not about to have disobedience. This is a question of obedience more than it is player safety or anything else.
So let me ask you a question. You think that if, well, no, because it's different than the Michael Vick one in the sense that it kind of just came out. Goodell asked Vick. Vick said, "I didn't do it," which, he's probably instructed by his attorneys to say. Then Goodell punishes him. This is Goodell saying, "Okay, I know you were doing it. Don't do it again." And the Saints says, "We're not." So they were kind of warned twice.
Yep.
They knew about it once, told them to stop. Then when they went ahead and did it anyway, there isn't an answer to say, "Oh, I didn't know." Like Sean Payton's argument was, "I didn't know anything about this." Well, if Goodell told you not to do it and you went ahead and did it, yeah, no, I totally agree. This sends a very, very strong message about lying to Officer Goodell. And normally I'm not on Goodell's side, but this is the one time where I thought he did the right thing. Because I feel like if you're going to hold players to this kind of a standard, then you need to hold teams to this kind of a standard. And the Saints got throttled. I will be surprised. Now, this will change based on what we're about to talk about in a second. If the Saints have a winning record next year. Because not only do they lose Peyton, they lose the guy who would be the interim head coach because he's out for 6 games. And the GM, I think, is out for 6 or 8 weeks. So the Saints are in trouble.
Yeah, and look, when the players in the past have gotten fined, have gotten suspended, there's been a lot of complaint by people that don't like Goodell that Goodell treats the players unfairly. This is clear indication that Goodell is harsh on everyone, and you can't have teams disobeying you. If you're the commissioner, your word has to be law. That's your job. That is what the players signed up for in the CBA. That is what the owners signed up for in the CBA. You can't have teams not only telling you they're not doing something and then doing it, but doing it in an incredibly organized and extensive way, including large sums of money. It's a huge problem, and Goodell's got to say enough is enough. And I don't have a problem with what he did. I don't understand why everybody is so freaked out about it. The only thing about this now that's even interesting to me at the least is what's going to happen to some of the players that were involved. And is Jeremy Shockey going to get in trouble for this? I don't like Shockey, but I'm kind of on his side with this Warren Sapp nonsense. As much as I don't like Shockey, I like Sapp less, even though Sapp was a much better player. But yeah, to me, this is not a big deal. They broke the law. At least the analog of the law in the NFL, and they lied about it. And they were warned to stop breaking the law. They did it again. They lied about doing it. This is over.
I agree.
And Drew Brees, and just as we're about to get into Drew Brees, but Drew Brees, shut up. What do you mean you're mystified by this? Have you not been paying attention?
I'm not going to lie. Everyone in the Saints right now looks really bad, and a lot of the glow and the glitz from their Super Bowl run, I think, is taking a hit. Because not only are they saying stuff like, "Oh, I don't understand why we got penalized so hard," or "I didn't know about it," it kind of tarnishes the whole title. Now, true Saint fans don't care; they got a ring, but it didn't have that same feel good story to it. You know what I mean?
And they can only use Katrina for so long.
Yes.
Look, and I'm going to speak here as a fan who has some experience with this kind of thing. When it first happens to you, when the league first comes down on your team or one of your players, and I speak here as an Atlanta Falcon fan who went through the whole Mike Vick thing, your first reaction is to be upset with the league because you're upset you're not going to have that star player, you're upset you're not going to have your coach or your draft picks or whatever. But eventually, you will come to realize that it wasn't the league that screwed you. It was the people who got themselves in trouble by doing something stupid. And almost all the fans in Atlanta who have any sense have come around to the fact that Michael Vick screwed us. And it wasn't even so much by the dogfighting thing, it was that he was not working on football. Eventually the Saints fans are going to come around and realize that it was not Roger Goodell that screwed them. It was Peyton and the defensive coordinator and the general manager. And I was not unhappy as a Falcon fan on that first game after Katrina when we got our ass kicked. I was not unhappy because you've got to feel for the city of New Orleans in that circumstance. And even though we had to take one for the team, I wasn't unhappy about it. And I'm not a Saints hater, but I'm telling you, Saints fans, it will happen soon. You will realize that it's not the league, it's your team, and they're going to be upset about that. And then this whole, oh, poor pitiful us because we've got Katrina. This is not the league screwing you. This is your own team doing it, and that's got to be even more upsetting because the Saints are all they have in that area as far as sports goes.
Here's my thought. I actually was kind of. I have a different take on the whole Katrina thing. I don't think that because of Katrina, like that spills over into people should kind of like, oh well, we lost to a team from New Orleans, man. They had Katrina, they really needed it. I don't really care about that. I think that Katrina has its own place in my consciousness, and sports has a place in my consciousness. And frankly, I wanted the Falcons to go in there and make them cry. I don't care. But
if it had been Tampa Bay, I would be with you. I hate the Bucks, but
no, I hate the Saints more. But when it comes to Katrina, I wanted them from a humanitarian standpoint to get back to their normal lives. Their normal lives has nothing to do with football, but that's another subject.
Yeah,
this is really something that I'm really upset about, and I don't think this is being talked about enough. So let me rant. Sean Payton apparently went to the owners' meetings, and there's a report on ESPN.com. You can check it out, ESPN.com, that says that Payton reached out to Parcells to be an interim coach for the year. Now, I have a severe problem with this. Number one, I don't think that any of the suspended parties involved should be at the owners' meeting conducting business on behalf of the team. Number two, there's something fishy about the fact of a suspended head coach, a disgraced head coach and general manager going to try to recruit another coach to run their team in their absence. And there's something, this team has already violated trust issues. I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Payton isn't sending a couple of texts here and there saying, hey, you should probably run this play, you should do this play, you should do this play. I don't think they should be a part of it at all. If Parcells became an interim coach, because someone else did it or something, I might be okay with it. But this really reeks. And, it's like you got punished, but yet you still have the ability to go out and get like a Hall of Fame head coach. When the Falcons got punished, we did not have the ability to go out and get a Hall of Fame quarterback to replace Vic until he came back. So I have a bit of a problem with that.
Well, I can tell you what I think about that, and I don't know that I have as much of a personal problem with it as you, but it looks bad. It's a public relations misstep. If you're Bill Parcells, you can now not say yes because it has been reported that Sean Payton came to you. If the owner came to you, that would be a different circumstance. The owner is the one person in this who appears like he was not involved. Like he said, stop it. They said, we have stopped it. He was misinformed. So the owner can reach out to Parcells. But if Payton reaches out to you, then it's like you said, it's the criminal, for all practical purposes, reaching out to try to say, hey, I'm going to have to do my time while I'm in prison. Can you come run my business for me? Or not so much my business, but can you come take my job at the Home Depot I was doing and do it for me? And now you'll be tarred by association with Sean Payton. I think if you really wanted Parcells to come, then it's a bad move by you, Sean Payton, to let that information out into the public.
I personally think that, and I feel like Goodell needs to probably step in. Again, I know their suspension don't officially start until the 1st, but I think Goodell needs to make it very clear that, you guys should not be a part of the business of filling out the staff.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question because several podcasts ago, I just gotten back from Miami and I was unaware that Drew Brees had been franchised, and I said, is this the end of Drew Brees in New Orleans? And you said, well, he'd been franchised, and I thought that was kind of the end of it. But it's definitely not, as things turn out. Brees has not signed the franchise contract. Mm-hmm. It has been widely reported that he and management are still quite far apart on the question of his payment. And now it appears he won't sign the franchise contract. That's what's being reported. And if you're Drew Brees, do you really want to stay with this team? And my question for you is, are we going to see Drew Brees with another team next year?
No. The problem is that this is the way the franchise tag works. Regardless of if you sign the franchise tag, you have been franchised. The contract simply means that you haven't signed a contract saying that you will play for that amount of money for that year. So Brees can't go anywhere, just like Brent Grimes can't go anywhere and sign with another team.
Yeah, that's not my question. Let me play this scenario out for you, and you tell me what you think.
Okay.
Because this is what will happen if this is how it goes. Brees will not sign the franchise tag, and let's suppose that he and the Saints come to an impasse, mm-hmm. right, which they may already be at. Mm-hmm. And Brees says, look, if you don't sign me to the kind of contract I want, here's what I will do tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will come out in public and I will say two things. I will say, I'm not going to sign the franchise tag. I will not allow myself to be tarred by the misdeeds of this team. They are not willing to put their confidence in me. They have voted for the people who were at fault in this rather than the people who were innocent in it. And I won't get to go anywhere next year, but I would rather retire and keep my dignity than stay here as a Saint and be tarred by the scandal of what has happened, because this franchise clearly doesn't care. Or he could either do that, that's the real hardball move, or he could say, look, tomorrow I will come out and say I have been franchised by the Saints, I will play my year out of my contract, and then that will be it. I can guarantee you I will not come back to this franchise because this franchise is headed in the wrong direction, and they do not care about the long term, as is evidenced by their failure to sign my contract. In both of those circumstances, the Saints get screwed in one case this year, in another case next year, and they look terrible in public. The fan base in New Orleans loves Drew Brees. What do they have? If he leaves, what do they have left to hang their hat on?
They'll go back to the bags. I think the second scenario is more likely. I think one scenario is that Brees holds out.
Right.
And he says, I'm not signing the contract, I'm not signing the contract. And he holds out, which is detrimental because realistically, he's the only coach on the team that can run that offense.
That is correct.
I think that scenario is very plausible because if you're Brees' agent, you're going to the Saints and saying, you guys are in a lot of trouble, a lot of bad PR.
I mean,
pay for my quarterback.
Bill Polian wrote an article on ESPN with this exact same argument. He's calling for them to sign Brees. Brees has all the leverage in the world. Mm-hmm. Even if he plays out his franchise year and he leaves, that wrecks the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Saints are in trouble, and it's shocking that this team that had a lot of problems with the coach and the quarterback and the weapons, they're going down, and they're going down fast. And I don't know of another team that may be dismantled like literally before our eyes. I would not be surprised if Drew Brees is not on the Saints roster next year.
By next year, do you mean this coming year or the one after that?
The one after.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I would be somewhat surprised if he's not on this year, but I wouldn't be shocked. Mm-hmm. I could, as much as I think at the end of the day, you're probably right. Either they'll get the contract done or he'll just play out his franchise year because they're only thinking in the short term. I would not be surprised to see a draft day trade. I would not be surprised to see them try to market him. If you're the Miami Dolphins, how excited would you be to get Drew Brees?
Well, they almost had him once before, but because of the injury, they weren't too sure.
Yeah, that was their fault, but they could get a second bite at the apple. I mean, I'll admit I don't think it's that likely, but man, they are not doing a good job dealing with this.
No. You know who is doing a good job right now, though?
Who's that?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is. Oh, by the way, before we leave the Saints topic, I just want to say, good luck, Mr. Lofton. Good luck with the Saints. You're not going to have a lot of fans in Atlanta anymore. Not only did you leave us, you left us for the freaking Saints.
Who is he?
I think he might have played. Did he play for the Falcons at one point?
I don't know who you're talking about. Moving on.
Yeah, have a good time with your house in Atlanta. Have a good time with all those people that liked you. Look, you're a free agent. Go where you want. You went to the Saints? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No. Yeah, I don't like you anymore.
Wow. Have a good time with that.
However, I will say in Curtis Lawson's case, if you believe you are a 3-down linebacker and the Falcons are refusing to pay with such, then you have every right to go to your arch rival.
Yeah, if they were the only bidder, whatever. I don't think they were the only bidder. That's just, we didn't have any loyalty to him. And the Falcons' complete inability to do anything in the offseason, that'll be a topic for a future podcast. But
Yes.
next topic.
Tiger Woods.